our learned guests and speakers to come forward for Deep Prajalan and to offer flowers to Lord Jagannath. A galaxy of speakers representing Bharatiya Vedant Institute, Bhakti Vedant Institute, Bharatiya Vidya Mandir, and Bharatiya Sanskriti Sansad. Bharatiya Vidya Mandir is involved into a vast range of publications on various subjects, whereas Bharatiya Sanskriti Sansad have completed a journey of 60 years, having wide spectrum of exposures in the field of culture. And we feel happy today to initiate a dialogue on a very important topic, scientific search for God. Bhakti Vedanta Institute was founded in 1974 by Dr. T.D. Singh towards fostering the synthesis of science and religion for the benefit of humanity. Their goal is to have spiritual reality accepted and incorporated into scientific research and advancements, to have scientific principles and methods integrated into the practice of spirituality, for advanced studies focusing on consciousness based paradigm of Vedanta to resolve the mind body problems. They provide a unique opportunity for scientists and religious scholars to learn from each other and thereby broaden their respective world views. Now I request our secretary, Shri Vijayji Jhunjhunwala, to come forward for doing the honors by offering flowers to Swami Vrajapati Das. He is alumnus IIT Kanpur and the president of Bhakti Vedanta Institute, Kolkata. Our guest speaker, Professor Sudipto Ghosh. He is from Department of Metallurgical and Materials Engineering, IIT Kharagpur. Dr. Bithal Dasji Mundra. He is the president of Bharatiya Vidya Mandir as well as Bharatiya Sanskriti Sansad. Swami Vrajendra Kumar Das. He is the alumnus IIT Kanpur and the director of Bhakti Vedanta Institute, Kolkata. We request you, very humbly request you, to keep your mobiles switched off or in silent mode, just to have a full conscious approach towards the program. And now I hand over the proceedings to Vijayji Jhunjhunwala.
आज हम लोगों के लिए बहुत गौरव का विषय है कि हम लोग जो खुदा की जस्तजू या ईश्वर की पहचान वैज्ञानिक और आध्यात्मिक तरीक़ों से करने जा रहे हैं। वैज्ञानिक और आध्यात्मिक तरीक़ों से की गई खोज दोनों हमें ईश्वर तक पहुंचाती है, और उसमें हमने भक्ति वेदांत इंस्टीट्यूट के साथ जो है मिलकर जो यह कार्यक्रम आयोजित किया है, उसमें आप सबको जो है एक राह मिलेगी कि किस तरह हम ईश्वर तक पहुंच पाएंगे जो हमारे चाक्षुष सत्य हैं उनके द्वारा, और किस तरह हम अपनी आध्यात्मिक शक्ति के द्वारा जो है ईश्वर तक पहुंच पाएंगे। बाहर आपने आइजैक न्यूटन का भी सिद्धांत पढ़ा हुआ है कि एवरीथिंग इमर्जेस फ्रॉम द डोमेन ऑफ गॉड। अब सबसे पहले हम आमंत्रित करेंगे स्वामी व्रजपति दास को। उनका मैं एक संक्षिप्त परिचय आपको दे दूं। स्वामी व्रजपति दास holds B.Tech from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam. Later, he obtained his M.Tech from IIT Kharagpur, India, After a brief tenure of working as a software professional, he decided to contribute significantly to science-spirituality interface under the able leadership and vision of Dr. T. D. Singh. Presently, Mr. Rao, Mr. Vasudev Rao was his name prior to Swami Rajpati Das, which was a name given by Bhaktivedanta Institute to him. Mr. Rao is the president of Bhaktivedanta Institute, Kolkata, and actively promotes discussion on science and spirituality. He is also the Global Council trustee of the United Religious Initiative. इस कार्यक्रम में हमारे जितने भी वक्ता हैं, आप देखेंगे कि वे सभी वैज्ञानिक क्षेत्र में कुछ न कुछ शिक्षण प्राप्त किए हुए हैं, वैज्ञानिक शिक्षण में प्रतिभा रखते हैं, और विज्ञान के द्वारा किस तरह आध्यात्म की पहुंच संभव है, ये सब उन्हीं के द्वारा संभव है, आपको जो बहुत शिष्ट और बहुत ही सरल शब्दों में समझाने के लिए। मैं आवेदन करूंगा डॉक्टर वजपति दास से यहाँ पर आके अपना संभाषण प्रस्तुत करें।
यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानमधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम् परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृताम् धर्मसंस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे संभवामि युगे युगे संभवामि युगे युगे। So, very happy to be here today with all of you, especially respected Mundraji, President of the Bharati Vidya Mandir as well as Bharati Samskriti Sansad, Professor Ghosh from IIT Kharagpur, and Sri Varun Agarwal, Director, Bhaktivedanta Institute, and the honorable audience. I'm sure there are many highly important members of the society, and we hope to know you slowly. My respects and pranams to all of you. And I'm very happy to welcome you to today's program, which is Scientific Search for God. Generally, there is a conception that science and religion or God, these are two compartments. You go to the temple, forget about the science and do whatever mantras, japas, pujas, whatever you want to do, you do it. And then come to your professional life, science or whatever you are doing, mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, and then you switch off the spirituality part, that part of the brain, and switch on the scientific part of the brain, and then you work. It has been like that, but time has come that they cannot be compartmentalized, because the questions that are being asked in science as well as in religion, they have been converged. They are about two things. One is about the cosmos. In the night, we wonder about the stars. What are these? So beautiful moon and stars. Where are they coming from? and the moral within us. From inside, whether we are moral or not, but there is a voice from inside that moral, ethical aspect of life is very important. So we have come to a place where the science is also asking these questions and the religion is also dealing with these questions. And these are very, very important to us because it is pertaining to our life, pertaining to us. The most precious thing in our life is what? Is our own life, ourself, our life of ourself. But unfortunately, my dear friends, we have very little understanding of what really life is. What this life is for. If you want to know what this life is for, you should know what life is. And unfortunately, this is one of the foremost unsolved problems of science, that what is life? This is the biggest question of the millennium. What is life? And then God, who is the supreme life. So therefore, our founder, director, Dr. Chidi Singh, he is a student of Calcutta. He studied in Science College. He did M.Tech in applied chemistry, and then he went to America in the University of California in Irvine, and there he was doing his PhD in chemistry. So there he got involved in this due to his preceptor. So he was working on this problem for last 30-40 years with organizing many international conferences, writing books. We have about almost 30 books outside given by him. So he says that biology means the science of life, right? Biology. But actually in biology, he put this simple question: are we really studying the life? It's a very interesting question. In biology, those who are biologists, they will know, in biology we are studying chemistry actually. How this molecule is working, how that molecule is working. But we are not really studying life, which is pertinent to our day-to-day life. So therefore, life is more sublime than we study in science. And because we do not know what life is, we actually waste our life. We live our life in a way that is not actually useful for us. And because we don't know life, we also don't know what is death. In science, we don't know what is death. Very surprising. We have many definitions of what is death, but what really death is. If you know life, then you will know also death. Therefore, our founder Acharya, we called A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he is a son of this very soil of Calcutta, who went on to introduce Vedic culture to all over the world. One of his first lectures was in MIT in Boston. In the Boston, there are all students and professors, they all came. That time there was very interest for Indian yoga and all these things, very interest. So they all came to hear. Swamiji has come from India. So he asked one question. You have so many departments of knowledge. Where is the department to study the difference between a living body and a dead body? What is the difference between a living body and a dead body? So there was a silence, because actually we don't understand. What is it that missing from the body? If it is a chemical, we can bring it and put it back there and bring the dead body to life. But we don't have the knowledge. What actually is that missing when the body is dying? So because of this lack of knowledge, or you say confusion, there is one very nice quote by Paulo Coelho. He says, we are in such a hurry to grow up, and then we long for our lost childhood. We make ourselves ill earning money, then spend all our money getting well again. We think so much about the future that we neglect our present, and thus experience neither present nor the future. And we live every day as if we are never going to die. And when the time comes to die, we die as if we never lived. This is because we have no proper idea about what is life. So this contradiction or confusion indicates that there is something very fundamentally wrong in our foundations of our knowledge today, foundations of our science. There is something which is missing, very much missing. We need to find that out. If we want to find that out, we have to study deeply, not on the surface of the sciences. We have to go deeply, we have to study deeply, we have to study with an open mind, without prejudice. We have to study seriously, sincerely, deeply, and with open mind. And Lord Kelvin says, if you do that, if you study deeply enough, you will be forced by science to believe in God, soul or life, whatever it is. That means our founders, if you study all the founders of our science, they felt the existence of God through their deep study of science. But we are not taught very deep science. So, in this regard, whatever that is not clear or not yet resolved, it is very important for us to hold on to our traditional wisdom. Traditional wisdom has a lot of content, lot of meaning, and lot of importance is there. Because on one side, we don't have proper answers in science, on the other side, we have discarded our traditional wisdom about the life. So, if we really want to make our life successful, then we must know life. What is life? What exactly is life? Scientifically, spiritually, and both combined together. It is not just a blind faith. Blind faith no more works, because now everybody is very inquisitive, scientific, and we can also do experiments in spirituality. But those experiments are subjective experiments. In science, we do objective experiments. In spirituality, also we can do experiments, but they are subject to experience. Means those experiments we can learn only by doing it ourselves. Because the questions about life are about our own self. For example, a rasgulla. What is the taste of this rasgulla? I can eat and tell this is sweet. But unless you taste it, you will never know what is the taste of this particular rasgulla. Similarly, spirituality is a subject. This is subject because of the subjective self which is involved in this experiment. Similarly, spirituality means the subjective experiments, that you have to do it. So science can help us, giving some the objective way to do the subjective experiments. So I will conclude with a quote from St. George. He said, "All my life I have spent in the lab dealing with atoms and molecules which have no life at all. And at the end of the life, I find myself in deep thought about my life. I spent whole my life in the lab, but at the end of the life, I see my life has slipped through my fingers. I spent whole my life with the lifeless molecules." So, my dear friends, if we want to make our life really successful, we should wake up before we become very old. Generally, there is conception that spirituality is something which you do when you are old. Actually, spirituality you cannot do when you are old, because spirituality involves changing yourself. This is the most difficult thing in this world, to change yourself, your nature. And if you want to live with God, if you want to go to the divine, you have to become like God. Unless we become like God, you cannot be with God. And that requires our own self-training, self-changing. That requires proper understanding, scientific understanding and spiritual understanding of life from the very beginning. So, I welcome you all to this very wonderful talk about scientific search for God, which also includes us. We are all part and parcel of God. He is the supreme life. We are quantum life, quantum of life. So, I would like to welcome you to this talk this evening. I would like to thank Mundraji and all the wonderful his team who are organizing very wonderfully. And prepare your questions if any you have. At the end of the talk, there will be, I think, interactive session or whatever. And talk to you soon again. Namaste.
स्वामी ब्रजपति दास जी ने अभी विषय प्रवेश किया और प्रस्तावना के स्वरूप आपको लाइफ और डेथ के बारे में जीवन और मृत्यु के बारे में एक संक्षिप्त परिचय देते हुए यही कहा कि ईश्वर को सबसे अच्छी तरह जानने का तरीका है कि हम स्वयं को ही ईश्वर समझें। यह पूरा शरीर एक संघात है, 10 इंद्रियों का, 5 कर्मेंद्रिय, 5 ज्ञानेंद्रिय, मन, 11 चीज़ों का संघात यह शरीर है। किंतु फिर भी इसके अंदर जो वैचारिक शक्ति है वो किसकी दी हुई है? हमारे सोचने की शक्ति है, वो भी ईश्वर की दी हुई है। हमारा कुछ भी नहीं, हमारे पास सिर्फ ये भौतिक शरीर, इस भौतिक शरीर से परे खुदा। अब आपको विषय की गहराइयों तक ले जाएंगे। प्रोफेसर सुदीप्त घोष, जिनका एक संक्षिप्त परिचय मैं आपको दूं। प्रोफेसर सुदीप्त घोष received his B.Tech, M.Tech, PhD degrees in metallurgical engineering from IIT कानपुर। यहाँ भी देखिए, ये सब जितने भी महानुभाव आपको जो साइंस और स्पिरिचुअलिटी के बारे में बोल रहे हैं, सब किसी न किसी विज्ञान के क्षेत्र से हैं। After completing his study at IIT Kanpur, more than 6 years, he worked as scientist in Tata Research Development and Materials Engineering at IIT Tata Research Development and Design Center, Pune. In July 2004, he joined the Department of Metallurgical and Materials Engineering at IIT Kharagpur. His research specializes in mathematical modeling of materials processes at different length scales. Dr. Ghosh also works in the area of lithium-ion batteries and material science in ancient India. At IIT Kharagpur, he is involved with several R&D projects. Since 1995, Ghosh has been directly trained in the area of science and spirituality by Dr. T. D. Singh, a well-known authority on Vedanta and science. He is in the editorial board of Savjnanam and Tattva Jigyasa. विज्ञान के साथ अर्थात यह हमारी जो चेतना है, इसके साथ जो शरीर है वह एक संपूर्ण ईश्वर, जहाँ तक मेरी धारणा। अब मैं डॉक्टर प्रोफेसर सुदीप्त घोष को अनुरोध करूंगा कि वे डायस पर आकर अपना भाषण प्रस्तुत करें।
नमस्कार। Respected Mundraji, respected our revered Swamijis and learned audience. So I am going to present on the scientific exploration for God. So just like we explore for treasure, like treasure hunt, and we have expedition, it's a kind of expedition, and I am associated with both the institutes, the IIT Kharagpur and Bhaktivedanta Institute. I will basically like the talk to be more interactive. That will be, if anywhere you want to make any comment or you have any point to make or you have any doubt, please interrupt and we can discuss actually. So this is Srila Prabhupada, and in his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, he has very beautifully expressed something. He says that human intellect is developed for advancement of learning in art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, economics, politics, etc. And by culture of such knowledge, the human society can attain perfection of life. So this is where we are different from the human birth. Means we ask something more than, what to eat or how to sleep, and all the questions which are common with the animal life. So, and he says that this perfection actually culminates in the realization of Vishnu or God. So that means what he is saying is that actually if you run on the road of the science, you will actually, this will culminate to God actually. So that means the road of science actually leads to God. And definitely this is a very revolutionary statement, coming from the spiritual tradition of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was also actually this tradition. I mean, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself in his time was one of the greatest scholar, or maybe the greatest scholar of entire India. And in the age of 12, he defeated a very great, the Digvijay Pandit. And wherever he went, actually, all the scholars actually became his followers. In those days, they had this Shastric discussion. And in the entire line, then we have so many scholars, Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, who were actually the ministers of this entire Bengal. And then Jeev Goswami, who is known as the greatest philosopher in the entire medieval period. So this entire tradition, then coming down to Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who was the first Indian to become the magistrate in the British administration, along with Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. And then his following, his son also, was also a great spiritualist, and Gurudev of Srila Prabhupada. He was such a learned person, and Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee wanted him to be actually in the Calcutta University as a professor of Indian astronomy. But then he said, no, I am a monk and I have some other responsibility. So this great tradition coming from our acharyas, and so this is a very unique statement that even the science actually how it leads to God. And here Dr. T.D. Singh, he is very nicely summarizing in Vedanta, knowledge of atom or DNA molecule enhances further understanding of knowledge of God. This is essentially contradictory to very common belief we at least had some years back. Both science and religion therefore help in understanding God. Therefore, we have used the word synthesis, and so on. So Dr. T.D. Singh actually, whatever I will be essentially presenting, so it is not my really that hard work that I went through the, what scientists are saying or what science is saying and what spirituality is saying. Spirituality, we very nicely, I could understand from Swami Prabhupada, and so lucidly he has explained Vedanta that I will say like a person like me was able to get some good idea about the thing. And because of the very hard efforts and because of the spiritual strength and a great scientist in him, Dr. T.D. Singh, actually he actually gave us the nectar. Like we had during Samudra Manthan, they did a lot of tapasya and churning, and they churned out the nectar. So Dr. Singh actually, through all the work which is on science and spirituality, he really churned out the essence, and that is what I am going to present. So here you see that these are you can say the pillars of science. Copernicus, Kepler, Boyle, and these are the Robert Boyle. Newton was one of the very important, Einstein, then Planck, then Heisenberg, then our great mathematician Ramanujan. See, these are all, they are like the pillar of science, and all of them, and even more, there are, even we give the list. So these all the top pillars of science, they very strongly believed in existence of God. Like what Swamiji quoted sometimes back, so this is the exact quote statement. Lord Kelvin, he is one of the founding figures of thermodynamics. And after him we have this unit of temperature. He says, I believe that more thoroughly science is studied, the further does it take us from anything comparable to atheism. If you think strongly enough, you will be forced by science to believe in God. It's a very strong statement. And Einstein, says everyone who is seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that a spirit is manifest in the laws of the universe, a spirit vastly superior to that of man. That is referring to God. And Mark here is using this word, who is seriously involved in the pursuit of science. Because we rarely are seriously involved in the pursuit of science. So one really deeply goes into the science, then he gets this kind of wonderful conclusion. So we saw that how from spiritual traditions, and there are so many other spiritualists, I just get a sample, and there are so many scientists who are actually echoing with the same message. And there's a very beautiful statement by Heisenberg. You all have heard about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So a very famous physicist, and making a beautiful statement. He's saying the initial gulp of water of science may tend to make one atheistic. So initially when we start learning science, we are very excited. We may develop such kind of, I will say that fashion or some this kind of ideas. And at some stage, I remember when I was in school, for 2 years, I was also a little atheistic. So one tends to become like that. But then Heisenberg is saying that at the bottom of this water of glass, the glass of water, God is waiting for you. Beautiful statement. So initially, in the science can tend to make you atheistic, but at the end, the God is there. And a similar statement by Planck. He says in religion, God comes in the beginning. Okay. But in science, God comes in the end. So it's a beautiful statement. So you can see what is the opinion of the top pillars of science. So now let us come to a little bit the technicalities. So what we actually mean by science is that putting a large amount of information in a set of rules or structure. So you are having a large number of information. Okay, you are observing this, You are trying to put it in a mathematical form. This is what we do in the modern science. So we have different kinds of observations, and then we come up with some kind of mathematical. For example, the pendulum moving and the ball falling down, the ball rolling down, all these things actually can be summarized in the Newton's laws and even the laws of gravitation. They can explain all these kind of events actually. Now, I have written something, it's very important, how. Basically, all these laws are actually describing how things are happening. Okay. So we have like some direct observations. We have different kinds of direct observations. And we can see the color, we can actually measure the time, we can measure the length, we can measure the velocity. And so this direct observation in our Vedanta, we call it pratyaksha. So you can say we have 5 senses, and with 5 senses, we make some direct observation. Now, what Galileo did many years back, so he made a proposal. His proposal was that all the observations which we are making in science, he classified into 2 categories. And I will say that was fundamentally a mistake. One category was, he said, the primary observations, the primary quantities, and the others, he said, the secondary. So what are primary? That which can be quantified. And what are the secondary? That which cannot be put in the form of number. So this is a fundamental mistake. To avoid the broader kind of observations, you are seeing a color, you are having an intuition, that is also an observation. And you cannot say that why should I discard it and why should I accept my direct observation of time and length. There is no scientific reason. This is also an experience. This is also an experience. But he made that classification. And science, essentially, one part of the science deals with how things are happening. Basically, putting all the observations in few set of laws. And then you have why is also very important. So pendulum is moving, and then Somebody will say, okay, gravity, then why gravity is there? So you try to go into the very fundamentally in nature what is happening. So that is there, and basically when you ask this question why, you actually inquire about the world which is not observable by us, which is beyond. Okay, and therefore in Vedanta we call such things as Anuman, because you don't have any direct observation but you make inference about them. So basically, why the observed phenomena? The phenomena we are observing and we are describing them by certain mathematical equations. But like the planets are moving and you are describing them by the laws of gravitation, but why there is gravitation, why this kind of thing. So that is more basic, and that deals with basically about the world which we cannot directly experience. So this is also called Anuman, this is also called inferential knowledge. So in inferential knowledge, we actually try to probe into the domain of reality which is beyond our experience. And a simple example in science, we talk about atom. We cannot see atoms. We cannot see electrons. Okay, but we are talking about the domain. Okay, we observe something, but when we try to explain it, we try to explain in terms of concepts which are not, or objects which are not directly visible. Okay, so we have a world of experience, we have a world which is beyond, and we try to connect these two. And now this is a very interesting example. This we called as cloud chamber, and many of the basic fundamental particles were actually we have observed through these cloud chambers. So you can see, this is for example radioactive alpha rays coming out. You are actually not seeing the alpha particles. You are just seeing these are the streaks where the water vapors have deposited and made. So this is something, this is the world which you are observing. But what is actually going on, we are not having any direct observation. It's only a kind of inference. Okay. In fact, the whole modern physics, once you start talking about atom, it's basically inference form of knowledge. There is no direct observation. So first they thought atom is neutral and it cannot be divided. Then J.J. Thomson got some experimental evidence of cathode ray, which forced scientists to accept that no, there is a negative particle inside the atoms. And therefore there is a positive particle also. No physics, no direct observation. Then Rutherford did some experiment, and from there again inference, no direct observation, that the positive charge is inside and the negative charge is outside. Why the positive charge is inside? Altogether there must be an additional force, otherwise the positive charge will repel each other. So how it is condensed? Again inference. What is the charge of electron? Who has seen electron? Nobody has seen electron. From the oil drop experiment, he is actually concluding the charge of electron is this. Again then combining some electric field and magnetic field and seeing the cathode ray, you are finding out what is the E by M ratio of the electrons. So you know the charge, now you know the mass also. So this way the whole thing is actually is without any direct observation. Okay. So now regarding God, the existence of God, why the scientists, they had a very strong commitment. Why Lord Kelvin is saying that you will be forced by science to accept God is because of this Anumana or the inferential method. So how does one really infer about the evidence? What is the inferential evidence of God? So I will talk about both the evidence. I will talk about the direct evidence. I will also talk about but first I will talk about that as we deeply enter into science, what kind of indications or evidence we get on the existence of God. So there are two important things. One is called the fine tuning, another is called the intelligent design. This should be I. So what is this fine tuning? So we have certain basic laws of physics. Okay, we don't have any unified laws of physics. Definitely different laws are applicable to different kinds of objects. For example, for the planetary objects, we have the laws of gravitation. for the atomic scale, we have the quantum mechanical laws. And all these laws, we have the constants, like for example, speed of light, then magnetic constant, electric constant, charge of electron and proton, mass of electron, mass of proton, and so on. Stephens-Boltzmann constant, so gravitational constant. So there are a lot number of constants. So it is the observation of scientists that the values of these constants are like sort of designed, fine-tuned. They call it, the word is fine-tuned. So if these constants are slightly different, the entire universe will be very, very different. Okay, we have a strong nuclear force, and we have also the weak nuclear force. We have the gravitational force. I mean, their values, if they were slightly different, the whole universe will be different. Like for example, we have heavy element in the universe, we have light elements in the universe. We have some ratio. If there is slight shift in these values, your entire universe can be only light elements like hydrogen and helium. And if the value is slightly different, we're going to have only the heavy elements. So essentially, these are the constants which enter the basic fundamental laws of nature. Okay, like for example, the quantum mechanical law is the Schrodinger equation. So there you have the Planck's constant. Where is the Planck's constant? Yeah, here is the Planck's constant. So this, and then the charge of electron, charge of electron, where it is the charge of electron, and then the mass of electron proton. So they get into the Schrodinger equation, with the basic laws. So any law, you are writing a differential equation, or you are writing ax square plus bx plus c. But what is A, what is B, what is C? So these constants actually, they tell you exactly what the physical law is. So the scientists use this word, and all the scientists, they accept that it is very peculiar, these values of these. And if the mass of electron will be slightly different, the entire property of water will be different. If slight difference in the mass of electron or the charge of electron, the water will not have this kind of property. If the water does not have this property, then the whole paradigm of life will be different. Whole requirement of life will change. Water has the property that its maximum density is at, not at 0 degrees centigrade or below, but it has something. And because of that, you have life in the ocean. Slight change, very little change in the mass of the electron or the electronic, this charge of electron will entirely change the property of water. It will change. Earth would have not precipitated with this kind of atmosphere and everything. Okay. So basically you are changing the laws, how the atoms and electrons and particles are interacting. And there is another important thing. This is a very important concept, that okay, suppose you have a set of atoms or particles, fundamental particles here. Okay, and their interaction is being governed by the laws, all the basic scientific laws, and you can say the fine tuning. But what will be its configuration after a certain time will actually depend on what is the initial configuration you have given. That is very important. The same laws, how the atoms and molecules are interacting, they are interacting outside and also inside the body. The same physical laws. But what is that initial configuration of atoms and molecules that gave rise to, let's say, the formation of DNA and formation of life? So this is a very important reason, even possibly more important than the fine tuning, that scientists are finding it very, very very, very mysterious, because the initial conditions were such that you are forming the life and all kinds of things. For example, okay, the planets are constantly moving in there, they're constantly moving around the sun, and they have a perfect trajectory, and years after years, they are not falling into the sun, or they are not colliding, okay, and the situation, suppose the Earth has exactly the temperature what you require, its distance from the sun, It's not changing. If slightly it goes closer to the sun, there will be catastrophe. Our body can only take in a very narrow range of temperature, and slightly it goes back. But what was that initial configuration which resulted into this kind of motion? And just try it, and you will definitely not succeed in doing that. So, Newton is giving a very beautiful thing. This most beautiful system of sun, planets and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. This being governs all things, not as the soul of the world, but as Lord over all. And he says that he is God. So this is very interesting. The most beautiful system of sun, planets and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. Because you cannot give that initial condition which suddenly results into this. Okay. After all kinds of interactions. Another very interesting example is origin of life, which has been always a mystery, and from the science point of view, and today also it is a mystery. Okay. And the Science magazine of 2005 is actually listing it as one of the questions. How did life originate? So life is believed that initially there was earth and there was a prebiotic environment. And then life formed. This is the scientific theory. But there is no explanation to this. Again the same question. The laws of interaction between all the atoms and electrons, they are all known. You may not be able to calculate that just sitting and taking a sheet of paper, but by using extensive computation method, you can get a fairly good idea. But again the question, what is that configuration of atoms and molecules which leads to, by the laws of nature, the formation of the first cell? And this question has been always unanswered. I mean, we cannot even dream of making this kind of thing. Okay, if we can make many things, but how this first cell formed? What was that initial configuration of atoms in the nature, or the prebiotic environment which led to cell? It's not understood. Okay. So actually, we have 4 levels. This is the cell, and these are the basic simple molecules. These make what we call as a biomonomer. Monomers make biopolymers, and these make this cell. See, even we take these and try to combine them, we don't know how the cells have formed. So it's absolutely marvelous engineering, and this I'll just quote here Professor Arber. Actually, he came to one of the conferences earlier, and he says, "For me, it remains a mystery how so many molecules in a cell could have come together and function. Existence of God represents to me a satisfactory solution." That means that God has done the fine tuning, he has made the laws, and he also set the initial condition. Okay, initial condition is very important. If the initial condition थोड़ा भी गड़बड़ा जाता है ट्रैफिक में, ट्रैफिक जैम हो जाता है. ठीक है, everybody has some law. The cars are following some laws, and there are something. Human laws are also there. But traffic में initial उसमें थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ हो गया, you will get a jam. So here also, you cannot come to the right and desired kind of configuration of atoms if the initial condition is not the right one. And forget, we cannot dream about making a machine which you put inside the earth and you will get this kind of thing. Okay. So actually, if you look at it, the birds also have an intelligence. We all living entity, we have some intelligence. The tiger also, it has intelligence, it hunts, it has all kinds of technologies. Human beings have also some intelligence. But suppose you take this black arrow as the scale of intelligence. Okay, where are these computers and all these things, and where is this living cell? Living cell will not come in this scale. So basically the science involved there is so much superior. So Dr. T.D. Singh is to actually call that Lord Krishna is the supreme scientist. That is why he is to address Lord Krishna as the supreme scientist. Now, coming to this way, actually, this is called some kind. So all scientists have this very, very strong conviction because of their observation on the nature. Okay, because if you see Picasso's painting, we cannot appreciate it. Those who are very good artists, they can appreciate what Picasso was, or the painting of Rabindranath Tagore, or those modern arts, we cannot appreciate. Similarly, only a very great scientist can appreciate the work of the supreme scientist. So that is the reason we find the top layer of the scientists, they are very strong believers of God. And actually scientists at like my level and other levels, usually we find atheists at this kind of level and things like that. So now, coming to the last phase of this talk. So this was actually like a inference, inference is never a perfect method. Now let us come to our Vedantic knowledge. Inference, what happens, because you are not seeing what is there. You are only making some kind of a picture. And in Vedanta, thousands and thousands of years ago, they have said this is not a perfect method, although it's very helpful. In this way, we get an indication that there is God, there is an intelligent being, but we cannot go deeper into who is God and how is God. We cannot do that. We even cannot say, actually, modern science from the time of Heisenberg, they have actually rejected the idea of making any picture even about atoms and electrons. He said you cannot do that. That's a very important thing. And that is at the foundation of quantum mechanics. You cannot say, stop imagining that there is a nucleus in the center and electrons are moving, and that's what quantum mechanics is. Okay, so Heisenberg basically totally brought out, we don't know anything. What we are seeing is, just be concerned about that, and behind, just construct a mathematics. That was his whole thing. So Vedanta, long time back, have given up this inference. I mean, definitely it is a second kind of thing. And now how we know about things, see for example here, in a puppet show is going on, but what is behind the puppet show, we don't know. It can be an automated machine. It can be a human being. It can be old man. So we really don't know. A flying machine is flying. So from the ground you are seeing the aircraft is flying. It can be unmanned vehicle also. So we are expecting that there will be some kind of intelligence or some being. But this is the problem with the method of inference. So here, Freeman Dyson is making a very wonderful statement. God may have more qualities than we humans are capable of imagining. So what we cannot see, we really cannot imagine. If we could enlarge our emotions beyond the human range, we would experience a very different God. My conception of God is not weakened by my not knowing whether the physical universe is open or closed and so on. So this is very important. So, because whenever we'll infer, why we are inferring about atoms like a particle? Because day to day we are seeing football and cricket ball and marbles. So that is our concept about the physical world. What we are seeing, we were imagining atom like that. So Heisenberg says, give up this. Okay, the same thing he is talking about God actually. So what is left now with us? There is nothing left with us. And we have come to a point that we turn our attention to what actually Vedanta is speaking about God. So Vedanta also has science. Okay, in Vedas, in this conference we are going to, this coming Kharagpur, we are going to do a lot of things about ancient Indian science. In ancient India we had physics, chemistry, mathematics, we had material science, technology, everything was there. But that was completely integrated with the spirituality. Now, we have taken the path of the modern science. At some point, we are now here and we have to now look forward what Vedanta is talking about, how to know God. So Vedanta is giving a very different message, and this is called actually Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman means, like, I'm asking, somebody wants to know that what is inside my pocket, and suppose I am a Superman or something. Now, nobody can come and himself. In a large number of shlokas, he is talking about, himself, how he runs the material world, what is his position and what he does. He's also showing Arjuna his universal Vishwarup. Yeah. So this is one kind of knowledge, and one may question that that this kind of knowledge requires faith. Okay, so this is the last form of knowledge. One was Pratyaksha, one was the Anuman, and Shabda is basically knowing from God directly through the revealed scriptures, through the saintly traditions. So this is called the Shabda. And one may question that in this kind of tradition, you have to have a faith on somebody. Okay. Though Vedanta is not talking about blind faith, there is a difference between blind faith and faith. We'll talk about it. But definitely there is faith, and one may question this. But if you closely look into science, every science begins with faith, as Max Planck is telling. In this journey, in the temple of science, the first line you learn is faith. Without faith, and there are reasons for that. I will not go into the technicalities, but I'll just point out Charles Townes. He left. He passed away at the age of 99. He is the inventor of this laser. Today everything is depending on laser and maser. So he is one of the inventors of the laser. He says science itself requires faith. He is actually from California, right? So, and the idea that religion is faith, science is knowledge, I think is quite wrong. It misses the actual basis of science, which is faith. So science has faith. There is no doubt about it. I'll give you some examples. The first one is little philosophical. We are talking about the universal laws of quantum mechanics, gravitation, and we say, that they apply everywhere and at all times. I'm measuring the gravitational constant in the lab here, but how do I know that same gravitational constant is working many light years away? It's just our faith. We don't have any evidence. Or the laws of quantum mechanics and electrodynamics was valid million years ago at this point only. How do we know that? We don't have any evidence. Then there are some experiments which are very rare. Going to moon, or there is some special tornado and somebody publishes the data. Now how can we question it? You cannot repeat that same tornado again. But somebody gives the data, it works, science works on faith. We are not going and giving in the example. In the exam, I'm not saying that the question is asked, what is Bohr's theory of planetary model of atoms? You will not say, no, I have not done the experiment myself, I'm not going to write it. We write it actually. So faith is everywhere. In fact, there are some non-provable laws, like third law of thermodynamics, it says entropy is 0 at 0 Kelvin. Nobody can ever experimentally prove that. Because second law, the law before that says you cannot go to 0 degree Kelvin. So, and a very serious philosophical thing is, we believe that truth is associated. Whatever we are seeing, we are hearing, we don't say it is an illusion. Okay. In fact, there is a very serious question by Descartes. He says if you wear a red glass, everything will become red. If you wear a black glass, everything will become black. Then how do you know? And what you say that this is not really like this. It's actually because I am wearing the black glass, that is why I am seeing things like this. But he says, how do you know? There is something inside the eye. The world is really not like this. You don't know. Similarly, if you put a pen like this, it will appear slanted. So you say it is an illusion. But how do you know there is some physical mechanism somewhere? What you are seeing is at all not existing. You don't know. So therefore, this is also a faith that the world I am seeing, it is like that. Without this faith, we cannot have science actually. So faith is important. So we look into scriptures. So one way is basically a synthesis of the spiritual tradition and the modern science, is that you first look into scriptures for the fundamental axiom. Look into Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, Vedas, and then test. You test it yourself. Okay. So, like for example, you want to verify who is the father of the child. So before you start conducting DNA test on everybody, you ask the mother, or ask the child who is your mother, ask that, get that information, and then you do the DNA test. That is a much faster way. So instead of just, okay, science can only come to that, that boundary, okay, that it will make you enter into the spiritual domain. But then you have to have this Shabda Pramana. It will definitely lead to you a point, up to certain point. But it cannot take you to that complete, exactly, to give you the complete realization. So you accept the thing, but then, okay. Now I'll give you some practical thing. So suppose we are now following the scriptures, and all of you, or a large number of you, are actually practicing some form of spirituality. And I believe that our India is great because of that reason, because here most of the people, even you ask any ordinary person, he believes that I had some problem, and he will say, yes, must be in past I have done something wrong. Okay. And he has that feeling that if I work now well, and I will be blessed with some better life in the future. So there is definitely some kind of spiritual practice. Now, like, there is a very interesting example in science. Most of the scientific discoveries or inventions, they have not been in a very planned way. We are looking for some answer, and suddenly some answer comes. Like Gauss says, I am citing one, there are million examples. He says, finally 2 days ago I succeeded like a sudden flash of lightning. The riddle happened to be solved. I myself cannot say what was the conducting thread which connected what I previously knew with what made my successful. It happens. You are looking for answer in this direction. Suddenly you get the answer in this direction. Suddenly, like it comes. You suddenly get an idea. You are planning to research in this direction. Suddenly a new idea comes. It happens, our day-to-day life also. You are thinking to start some new venture in this direction, and suddenly from there some another opportunity comes in. So this happens, suddenly it comes. So these kind of things which suddenly comes, there is no modern scientific explanation. People have tried. Even a great mathematician called Poincare, who himself had this experience, he was totally unsuccessful in developing a theory. He left mathematics and just went, Henry Poincare. And he just went for a vacation, and he put his foot on the bus. At that moment, the entire solutions came. But he tried to explain this from a very, like, the brain memory and these brain processes, but till today, nobody has any explanation. And Bhagavad Gita says, Sarvasya cham hridhi sannivishto mattaha smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. This is how you get brilliant ideas in every field of life. Creativity, whether it is art, culture, okay, business, science, everywhere is the same story. Another very interesting thing is, now we talked about Anumana, but now how, suppose we are entering into the divine. This is also very scientific. I told in the beginning, Galileo made a separation. That some of the experience, he said, take it seriously, other experience, don't take seriously. And here, let me tell you, this was a mistake. And if you just remove this thing, you can very nicely put science and spirituality in one framework. In science, you do an experiment and get the results. In spirituality also, you do the experiment, you get the results. When you are praying, and just close your light, close the eyes, and very sincerely, like a child, take the names of the God, pray to God. You can do at any age, you don't have to be a child for that, but you have to be like a feeling of a child. And you will definitely hear. For any religion, any people, if somebody has got a very deep shock, and that person goes and cries in front of God, from inside, he can experience the solace. Okay, so when the devotees, they are making the chanting the name of God, how they can keep on doing it years after years? Because there is some kind of reciprocation. As Lord Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita, ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tatham bhajamyam. As one approaches me, I also reward him accordingly. You will get that. Now, somebody will say, this is not a scientific result. And here I am strongly questioning it. Because this is also your experience, that can be also illusion. Your time period, everything can be illusion. But if you are accepting the observation of a length and time as a scientific information, how can you reject the experience? Okay. So, there are very interesting things. In the medical treatment, people do prayer. Suppose somebody is sick. And for this, experiments have been done where more than 10 Nobel laureates have participated. Okay. And large number of patients. So they selected a group of patients and they made prayers. 3 kinds of prayers were done. One is in the front of the patient. Okay, but the patient knows that they are praying for me. One is in the absence of the patient, but the patient knows, he is informed. And the third category was, the patient does not have any idea. But there are large number of people who are sincerely making prayers for that patient. And they have found, yes, it works. And yes, there is a direct observation. Now, it's a very important question. Have you seen God? What will be your answer? Yes or no? Can I just know from you? It is both yes and no. Because you have some experience. Definitely. You have some experience, some communication is there. आप जब किसी से मोबाइल में बात कर रहे, you have not seen that person. You are only seeing the one aspect of that person, definitely. There is some communication with that person. But when you actually meet that person, then it is different. But some communication is there, some observation is there. God is not like, it's not like 0 and 1. Is revealed, and as He reveals Himself, you are becoming, your conviction becomes more and more strong in that direction. So the answer is both yes and no. We definitely have some experience. And with this, I would like to thank all of you for patiently going through this talk. And really, I'm as a scientist, I'm not a very big scientist. And definitely, as a spiritualist, I am definitely a very new person. So, if you have any kind of things, we can discuss maybe after Mundra sir's talk is over. We can all take up, have a discussion kind of forum actually. Thank you very much.